According to you, what is the best death? I think the best way to go is to die like my grandfather. He fell asleep and never woke up. Dying in your sleep is indeed said to be the best way to go. So what do you consider the worst way to die? Like my grandfather's friends? Why? How did they die? They were in the car when Grandpa fell asleep. Going my way? The theme of this reflection is going my way. Going my way? There's a phrase we sometimes use when someone cuts us off in traffic or ignores our advice. Fine. Go your way. Go your own way. Usually what we mean is, you're wrong, but I'm done arguing. Palm Sunday invites us to ask a deeper question. Whose way are we actually going? Because on this day, everyone in Jerusalem thought they understood the way Jesus should go, and almost no one understood the ways he chose. As Jesus enters Jerusalem, the crowd is celebrating. They're waving branches, shouting their praises, and they are bubbling with expectation because they think they know his way is full of power and victory in overthrowing Rome. They think they know. Why? Because they were oppressed. And most often, oppression leads us to dualistic us-them thinking, with the ultimate goal being winning. In other words, they want a Messiah who will go their way. But Jesus does something strange. He doesn't do a drop the mic, look at me, Oscar moment. He weeps over the city. Not exactly the triumphant red carpet parade energy people were looking for. Before he even gets to Jerusalem, Jesus makes a stop in Jericho. And there he encounters short and stout Zacchaeus, watching him from up in a tree. I can hear Billy Graham right now. Zacchaeus, come on down. You remember him? Zacchaeus is part of the 1% wealthy country club. And he's part of it because he was dishonest. He was socially rejected, and he was not allowed at the table of the big boys club. We might even cross the street if we saw him coming, just to avoid him. Jesus sees Zacchaeus and says, I must stay at your house. He doesn't say, Zach, I'm coming over to your house, but first, clean yourself up. Prove to me and everyone else that you have changed. And before I arrive, pay back your overcharges to everyone. All he says is, I'm coming to your house. Can you imagine? It took me hours just to clean the floors, deep clean the floors in my house yesterday. This is where we see something radical about Jesus' way. He did not live trying to prove himself, protect himself, or possess anyone or anything. Jesus never chased approval. Even on Palm Sunday, when the crowd is finally cheering, he doesn't lean into it or perform for their ovations. A few days later, those same voices raised in praises will turn to curses. If Jesus lived to prove himself, he would have been crushed by that cultural shift. Praise to curse. He would have been crushed. But he wasn't. Because he didn't live trying to protect himself. He's riding in on a donkey, okay? And he walks straight into Jerusalem, knowing what's coming. Rejection, betrayal, crucifixion. That's quite a party. Imagine getting that invitation. No cameras or news people were asking him which designer made his tunic. Is that a Vera Wang tunic you're wearing? Could you just turn around? Nope. Denial, a cat of nine tails, a crown made of hyssop, thorns that long. Nailing and suffocation are on his crimson, bloody red carpet. And yet he keeps going. There's no PR strategy, public relations strategy being handled by his disciples. There's no escape plan. There is only surrender. While Jesus had every right to claim power, he didn't. He didn't try to possess anyone or anything. Remember when he was tempted in the wilderness? Oh, this can be yours. No. Instead, he rides in on a donkey. Not exactly the symbol of domination. More like the ancient equivalent of showing up to a military parade on a scooter. When I was a teenager, a few of us had a crush on a lifeguard working at Burgers Lake. It was a man-made lake in Fort Worth, Texas, and it was huge, huge. There were big trees with ropes. You climb the ladder, get on the tree, get onto the branch, and swing out on a rope. There were diving boards of all sizes, lots of green grass everywhere. We'd play Frisbee. Some people would do other things, but we loved it. It's where we gathered. It was a scorching hot July day, and it was loud, chaotic, with kids jumping, people laughing, and music blaring. Burgers Lake was the kind of place where it's easy to miss something important. The lifeguard noticed a child who was struggling in the center of the lake, just a few feet away from the barge. We followed his gaze to see the child wasn't waving dramatically or shouting. The kid was simply quietly slipping under the water. And here's the thing about those moments. They don't come with background music, and they don't pause to give you time to think. Our eyes darted back to the lifeguard, who had a split second to decide, because right at that same moment, another lifeguard was already moving toward the child in the water, but he was farther away. This meant our favorite lifeguard had a choice: to stay where he was safe and where he was responsible for his section of the lake, or leave his post, risk being wrong, risk consequences, and jump in. If he stayed, no one would blame him because he was following the rules, protecting himself. But he jumped and arrived to the child first, and then he pulled that little boy out of the water and gave him CPR, and he spit up the water and began breathing again. He saved that little boy's life. Later, when everything settled down, we watched his supervisor ask him why he left his position, and he said something very simple. I dove in because in that moment, saving myself didn't matter as much as saving him. That's the kind of choice we see in Jesus. Because on Palm Sunday, Jesus could have walked away. He could have avoided Jerusalem, avoided conflict. How many of you like to do that? Yeah, I like to avoid conflict. Ugh. He could have avoided the cross. In other words, Jesus could have saved himself. But he didn't. Not because he didn't possess power, but because he chose a different way. He chose the way of self-denial, the way of love, the way that says, I will not protect myself at the cost of losing you. I wonder how much time we waste trying to save ourselves. Thinking about a conversation, oh, I wish I just said this, that would have done it. Or if I say this, they'll understand me better and they'll like me more. How much time do we waste trying to save ourselves, secure ourselves, protect our image, our comfort, and our future? Jesus shows us another way. A way where love is greater than self-preservation. A way where we don't have to prove, protect, or possess. Because we trust the heart who gave everything he had for love. How many of us will admit that we want to go Jesus' way? I mean, I admit it. But while we're admitting that, will we admit that we want Jesus' way to be our way? I mean, we want people to understand us. We want success without sacrifice, faith without surrender, a higher power who agrees with us. We're fine with Jesus as long as he's going our way. But Palm Sunday reminds us Jesus didn't live to follow our ways or anybody else's ways. Love, the Spirit, always comes to lead us into the ways of love. When Jesus weeps over Jerusalem, it's not weakness. It's not fear. It's heartbreak. Heartbreak. His heart is broken because the people missed it. They missed it. They wanted a political solution, immediate results, and a visible victory. Their expectations caused them to miss opportunities for peace, transformation, and for the presence of the holy right in front of them. They missed it. They were going their way, and it led them away from the very thing they were looking for. Then Jesus enters the temple and turns over tables. It took a day to think about it, though. He overturns the tables not because he's losing control and not because he wanted power, but because he cares too much to leave things as they are. He clears out everything that distracts from real connection with the sacred. In other words, Jesus says, this place and your life is meant for love's way, not yours. So what does that mean for us? Going Jesus' way means letting go. It's so hard to do. Letting go of the need to prove ourselves. It means trusting the Spirit enough to stop trying to protect everything. Going Jesus' way means loosening our grip on what we want to possess. It means surrender. And let's be honest, surrendering to the ways of love is not easy. Why? Because our way feels safer. It feels smarter. And it feels more efficient, even when none of those are true. Palm Sunday doesn't invite us to a celebration. Palm Sunday invites us to make a choice. The same crowd that shouted, Hosanna, had to decide, will we follow Jesus even when he doesn't go our way? And the same choice is before us every single day. Imagine standing on the road into Jerusalem, on that road in Jerusalem, spread with all the coats and scarves and the cheering crowd, and branches are waving. Jesus is passing by. He isn't rushing. He isn't performing or trying to prove anything. In the simplest of terms, Jesus is merely moving steadily toward the cross, toward his murder, toward love, toward sacrifice, toward redemption. And Jesus turns to us as if to say, you can go your own way, you can go your way, or you can come with me. There was a blind man standing on a busy street corner downtown, and he started tapping the person next to him, and he said, I'm blind. Can you please lead me across the street? The Good Samaritan takes his arm into his and slowly walks with the blind man across the street. Once there, the blind man thanks him and walks away. Immediately, a woman taps the Good Samaritan on his arm and says, excuse me, aren't you blind? Yes, I am. Then why did you risk your life and the life of a stranger? Oh, I didn't sense any risk, ma'am. Only faith and a deep knowing. You see, I've walked across this street 1,000 times. I know every sound, every beep of the traffic light, every dent in the pavement. That man had never been here before and needed someone who knew the way and could lead him there. I guess you could say I did it with my eyes closed and my heart open, and it was exhilarating. As we continue walking into Holy Week this week, may we remember that every week is holy. The ways of Jesus do prove one thing. Every day is a no king's day. The only king should be love. May our hearts be controlled by validating everyone is worthy of love over proving we deserve recognition. May we lay down all the ways we protect our image of ourselves, and put on the ways of Jesus. And may we understand that we possess all we need. We already possess all we need to be love. And as we say yes, when the Spirit asks us, going my way? Yes. Yes. Because the truth is, the Spirit is always coming into our house because that's where she lives. May our lives prove, protect, and possess the life-giving ways of Jesus. May it be so. Amen.